Well met, adventurers! In today's video we're going to be going through 5 different ways that you can start off your TTRPG or Dungeons & Dragons campaign. Let's get into this. So yes, it is I, Nathaniel Gomezian, shopkeeper and proprietor of Gaming Treasure Chest. As I said, in today's video we're going to be going through 5 different ways that you can start your campaign that's going to be fun and interesting for your players. Because although there's nothing wrong with all of your party meeting in a tavern, if that's the way that you decide to start your campaign, there's nothing wrong with that. It's the classic, people go with it. But sometimes it can be a little bit more fun to start things in a little bit more of an interesting way. So let's get into some of those. So the first way you can kick off your new campaign is starting at a funeral. Now what's very important with this setup is that all of the player characters have got to have a reason to be at this funeral. They've got to know the person who died, and through session 0 you can talk through how your player characters know whoever it is who's died, what kind of relationship that they had with them, and why they're at the funeral. And basically the funeral is a nice kind of way because it brings them all together in a time of mourning. It's quite an emotional time, and it can be while they're going through the old things of the person who's dead. Like, they can find a call to action in there. Maybe they were researching something. Maybe they were killed by something and your group has got to revenge them. Maybe it's the spouse of the person who's died who basically says to the party members, please can you avenge their death because I know that you were good friends with them, and it joins and bonds them together on that adventure of starting out. But I said that's just general ideas. I said it can be maybe like research that they were doing has led them down a path, and obviously then that can lead your players down a path to try and see what they were researching and that. So there are a few different ways you can go off of this, but it can be a nice little fun way that starts off with a little bit of role play, especially if you end up making your party members do some kind of eulogy each for this person so that they can describe how they knew them and what this NPC's life meant to them. It can be quite a fun way to start things off. And it's just a nice little way of without it being emotional, it can bond players together. So that's why I always think a funeral is although sad, is an interesting way to start off a campaign. So the next one. So the next kind of interesting way of starting off a campaign is all your players wake up in a jail or some kind of cell. You know, kind of going down the Elder Scrolls Oblivion kind of approach. But what is happening here is that there is multiple different things. You can give them maybe a backstory if you want to of how they ended up in the cells, if there's a reason, if they know while they're there, or maybe they've been kidnapped and they've all woken up and they're kind of all together in a cell. Now you can do this in different ways in terms of whether or not they're chained to the wall or handcuffed or have to come up with some kind of a way to escape together, because that's a nice little bonding experience if they're all in this perilous situation whereby either they know what's going to happen to them or they don't. Maybe they're going to be executed, maybe they've been captured by some kobolds or goblins or something and that they're going to be eaten, or it could be a cult who's going to be sacrificing them, something along those lines. That they maybe if one of the members of the cult has spoken to them, they know what's going to be coming, so they are trying to prepare and come up with a way that they're all going to break out together. And that could be a nice, because who the hell doesn't like a prison break? So that is a really fun way to start off a campaign. You can see how creative your group get in terms of whether or not they lure a guard over to overpower, or whether or not they try to come up with some ways bending the bars or some cracks. Play with what your players decide they want to try to do to escape from this jail. As I said, have fun with it. But as I said, it's a nice little way to start a campaign. It's the bonding experience of we're all in a terrible situation and we've got to get out. As I said, those are just a few ways. It could be maybe that they are going to be sentenced to being executed by the king of the area, or some royal noble, whoever. Because it might just be it's a very corrupt place and that they've then got to escape, and then escape from the actual city as well. Maybe it's part of the campaign that they're being chased this entire time and trying to be brought back for justice or something. But as I said, it just depends on how you want to go with it. As I said, it can just be that they've just been kidnapped by a cult or some goblins or whatever. Now you can just have that as the start of the campaign and then them escaping and then they find out the story, or you can make it part of the story in terms of maybe if it's a cult or somebody who's trying to sacrifice them, maybe they're trying to sacrifice them to bring back some kind of crazy old eldritch god or something like that, and then that is the overarching story that these guys are trying to stop that from happening. I said, like, I'm not going to be going through like a actual story campaign ideas. These are just how you can start a campaign. But if you want to, I mean, maybe I'll make a video on that at some point. If people want it, leave it down in the comment section down below, because I don't mind giving like a whole campaign ideas. But anyway, it's just a fun little way of starting off a campaign like that involves like all the players having to work together to break out of a prison. And I think it's just like quite a fun little thing. So that's the second one. Let's get into the next way of starting a campaign. So the third option for starting a campaign can be that all of your party members are on a ship heading to some distant land, and maybe they've all got their own reasons why they're on that ship, and that they get to know each other because while on the ship, maybe like the passenger quarters are like very close together and just like a bunch of hammocks, and they're the only passengers on this ship. So obviously you've got the crew who are manning all the stations and whatnot, but they get a lot of downtime to be talking with each other while they're making this way on the ship. Then you can have it that like the ship gets attacked, be it by pirates, be it by like some kind of kraken, be it by any kind of monster or whatnot, instead of just pirates. And the party members have got to kind of like work together to be able to stop what's threatening this ship, because like let's face it, if the ship goes down, it's all going down. I mean, you could also have it that the ship does go down and they get swept onto some land and they're like shipwrecked. But you can also have it that they beat whatever the hell it is, I said, it was just pirates or whatnot, and continue their journey to whichever land that they're going to. As I said, like it'd be a good thing to, when starting that in session 0, for all of the players to have a reason why they're on this ship. Like, why are they traveling from where they've come from to this other land? Because at least that means that you've got a jumping off point of they've got these certain goals when they get to land, and by working together on the ship to stop whatever it was that was attacking them, it's kind of bonded them together, and allows them then to go forward as being like okay, fine, we've kind of all helped each other. I've got this kind of thing that I want to do when I get off. Maybe our goals can align in some way. And obviously you can weave that story together however you want, but being on a ship, on a confined vessel which is making its way across like a treacherous sea, if you want, is a nice little bonding experience, because they have nowhere else to go. They are like confined to this ship for a certain length of time, and so they can get to tell stories and whatnot with each other. And yet again, swashbuckling pirates and the like, people love those kind of stories and things, so throwing that in is not a bad thing. So that's another way that you can start a campaign. So the fourth way that you can start a campaign is by some kind of event happening, be it some kind of like festival, a carnival, or just like some kind of fancy auction, or like a fancy swagger event that basically all the players are attending. Yeah, again, they can have all their reasons for attending this thing. If it's like a carnival kind of thing, you can have little games that they can play, like a show of strength with the muscle man, like a kind of like hitting the thing to get the bell up, or it can be like a pie eating contest, like a constitution saving throw. There can be numerous of different things, like like darts and that, to be able to throw to hit the balloons. Like you can give them little party games, and then maybe like a talent show or something along those lines, for performance. But basically what ends up happening is that something happens at this event, gets raided or whatnot. Like I said, if you're doing some kind of fancy kind of gala kind of get together where it's all fancy posh people, maybe it gets raided by thieves or something who start getting them to put all their valuables in the bag or whatnot, because maybe there was some kind of little auction or such going on there, and they want to get a certain gem or something along those lines. So that is then the party then come together to stop that from happening. If it's a carnival or some kind of just festival that's going on, yet again it can get attacked in some way that then forces the party members to have to help out. But obviously, because it's an event that has multiple people there, civilians and such, it can be interesting to see what your players do in terms of revealing their characteristics as to whether they're trying to save people or they're just trying to get themselves out and free and whatnot. So it can be something which can reveal their what's going on with the battle. So yet again, in session 0, explain to them that this is what's going to be happening in terms of that they are going to this fancy gala, or they're going to this festival or carnival or that. Now they got some kind of reason why they're in town or whatnot, because then obviously you can start to tie those kind of threads in as well into the story as you go through it. But as I said, it can just be a nice little fun way to start off a campaign, especially as I said, if you do little mini games with it in it, sprinkle them in. If somebody wants me to do a little video on little mini games that you can throw, especially like dice mini games that you can put in, I will definitely do a video on that at some point, just because it's a lot of fun to come up with different ideas like that. But anyway, on to the last one. So the fifth and final way that you can start a campaign is immediately starting it in battle. Like, combat has immediately started. And what makes this interesting is like immediately you're starting combat, everything's going on, and you can then have it that like something even crazier comes, like a big demon erupts out of the earth or something, and now everyone's kind of got to focus on that. It can also be you can kind of combo this with the prison one, that like maybe the gate opens and they're in a massive coliseum and they're immediately starting combat where they're fighting for their lives and have to work together. So immediately starting off in combat, like especially like this, like throws you directly in where the action is, and each of these players gets to learn about how each character kind of reacts, their fight or flight response, and it can just be like a nice little bonding experience that they've had to work together to survive and then move on to whatever the next thing is as they escape or get out of the situation or whatever it is that they're in. So combat immediately started off in a battle, like even if it's a big like war zone or something, or like it's a nice peaceful day and suddenly like a dragon comes into the town and they've now got to escape with like those little minions of kobolds and whatnot. They've got to fight their way through to escape. Can be a very fun way and dynamic way to start a campaign. So those are just 5 different ideas that you can use to start a campaign with. Obviously there's so many different ways that you can do. Those are just some that I've thrown at you right there and then. Please, if you've got any ideas, please leave them down in the comment section down below, because I'd love to read them, and obviously I'm sure that loads of people would love to read them themselves to see what if they get any inspiration from them to come up with ideas for themselves. So please leave that down in the comment section down below. If you like this video, then please hit that like button and subscribe if you want to see more content like this, because it helps me out. And obviously if you enjoyed what you see, then I'm hopefully going to throw more things at you that you might enjoy. Obviously I mostly make like puzzle videos and things like that, but things like this are also fun from time to time. So please consider subscribing if you want to, do not feel forced. Also, if you want to support the channel, then why not consider checking over the Etsy store of Gaming Treasure Chest, where there's like loads of different dice holders and different things that are D&D related, that if you want to help me out by purchasing some of those, please feel free to, but do not feel forced. As I said, I've designed them all myself and 3D printed them because it's what I enjoy doing, as well as doing stuff like this. So I hope that you enjoyed yourself and had a good time while watching this. Hopefully potentially see you in a future video, but until next time, goodbye.